This is Gemara Sanhedrin Daf Lamed Zayin, all learning for this month. The month of Tevis has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf as Lezchot Aliyas Neshama for Aryeh ben Rav Yaakov, B'siyata Dishmaya, the Koyach HaTorah, which of course knows no bounds, should bring an incredible Aliyas Neshama for Aryeh ben Rav Yaakov. We're holding on the bottom of Lamed Vav and Beis at the Mishnah. The Mishnah begins, Sanhedrin Haisa Kechatzi Geirin Agula. The Mishnah begins with describing the way the Sanhedrin is seated when it comes to capital crimes. Kechatzi Geirin Agula, a half of a threshing floor in a semicircle. Why? Kadeshe Arayin Zeh. We want the Dayanim, the judges, they can see each other. We want that as they're educating, as they're discussing the cases, one can see the next. Ushnei Seifrei HaDayanim, and the two scribes of the Dayanim that we've seen already, those who write down what happened, Oimdim Lefneim, stand in front of them, Echad Miyamin, Ve'echad Mismal, one on the right and one on the left. Ve'kaisvin, and what do the scribes write? Divrei Mechayvim, Divrei Mizakin. They record the different arguments, that which the Dayanim say, L'chiyov and Lizchos. Rav Yehuda Imer Shleisha. There were three scribes of the Dayanim. Echad Kaisev Divrei HaMizakin, Ve'echad Kaisev Divrei HaMechayvin, V'ashlishi Kaisev Divrei HaMizakin, V'divrei HaMechayvin. So says Rav Yehuda, there were three Dayanim, three scribes. A third being, he would write and he would copy over, we could say, what both of them already wrote, but one person would write down the divrei, both that which is a reason to convict and a reason to acquit. We move over to Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, Ushalish Shurei Shel Talmidei Chachamim Yoshev Lefneihem, and there were three rows of Talmidei Chachamim sitting in front of them. Kol echad ve'echad makiras mekayma, each one was makir his makam, each one knew the place where they sat. What that means was, it went by who was more chashiv, who knew more Torah. As Rashi points out, each row was more important than the next, so they would know where they were supposed to be sitting. If the Dayanim needed to give smicha, what does that mean if they needed to? Says Rashi, for example, one of the Dayanim were nifter. So the first row, those are the greatest. They get smicha first. And then everyone gets bumped up because the first row, one of them is cutting a dayan. The one for the next row goes to the first row. And now there's an empty seat on the third row. They would select someone from the people. And the Mishnah concludes, you would not sit in the place of the first one. Rather, you would sit that which is appropriate for him. Meaning, he did not just go to wherever seat was empty. Rather, he sat at the end of the row, and everyone will move up a seat. Let's just see the last Rashi on the Mishnah. Rashi says, this new person that's being appointed to sit in the three rows, you would not sit at the end of the third row. What the Mishnah is pointing out is we selected one person to bump him up. So it's not pshat that he was the most right in the second row, takes his seat. He's most right in the third seat, takes that seat. But rather, they get bumped up to that row, and then within that row, they're placed where they're supposed to be seated. And now says the Gemara, says the Gemara, Minanim Ili, where do we know this din, the din that the Mishnah began with, the din that they sit in a semicircle? Where do we know that from? Says the Torah, Sharich Aganasar al Yechzar Amazen. Your navel is like a moon basin. Let not the koyach could be any smaller. So how do we dash this bus? V'koymer. Shayrech Chazu Sanhedrin. Lamanik or Shema Shayrech. Why is it called Shayrech? She Yosheves B'tibura Shalaylam. It's sitting in the navel, in the stomach, in the center of the world. Again, what is that? She Megina Kolaylam. Sanhedrin protects the whole world. Kulay. Hasar, what is that? She Doimel Hasar. The Sanhedrin is similar to the moon. That's the way that it's seated in the semicircle. Al Yechzer Hamazaig. That watch. If one needs to leave, right in Yesh Estim Shleisha Keneged Sanhedrin Kitana. If one of the judges needs to leave, we have to see are there 23 judges that remain. Vim Lav Yoitze. Vim Lav, and if not, Eino Yoitze, he will not leave. He could only leave when there is 23 dayanim left, and if not, then he's not allowed to leave the Sanhedrin. And we continue. Says the Gemara, once we're quoting the pasuk, or Tzlaita Gadata, quoting the end of the pasuk, which says, "Bitnech arimas chitin," explains the Gemara. What does it mean that your stomach is like a heap of wheat? Ma arimas chitin, just like a heap of wheat. Hakol nehenim manu. Everyone gets benefit from it. Av Sanhedrin, I call Nehenim Mitamea, and everyone benefits from the reasonings of the judges. And the pasuk concludes Suga B'Sheshanim, hedges with roses. What does this mean? Sha'afilu Kisuga Shel Shanim, that even when Klal Yisrael is Sha'afilu Kisuga Shel Shanim lo yifrotz b'pratzais, that even when they're like a hedge of rose, they will not have breaches through it. The Klal Yisrael will always have certain standards, certain statures, certain aveiros that they will not do. That even a row of stones, a very light fence, will be able to protect from any intrusion. Continues the Gemara, V'hainu da'amar. What's this last din of Sukkah b'Sheshanim? Says the Gemara, V'hainu da'amar le'ahu mina le'Rav Kahana. The min, the apostate, said to Rav Kahana, Amrita nida shari li'chuda ba'adi gavra. You say that a din is a nida zavad, allowed to be in yichud with her husband. Says this min, says this apikairis. Efshar neish bin uras ve'ina mevaheves. How could it be? And it's such a beautiful line. A fire with wood chips. It's not going to come to fire. Amar le responds Rav Kahana. This is one of those entities that when you know halacha and you grow up as a from yid, maybe you don't appreciate. But when you look at it from the outlook of someone else, it's a myridic thing. You have two people, husband and wife, in yichud, no one's watching. How could it be? Responds Rav Kahana, Amar le ha-tayra yida aleim zok the tayra suga b'sheshanim. Even a row of roses, Chafilu kisuga b'sheshanim, that even when it's such law yifrotz ben pratzais, we don't have to be concerned. The husband and wife could be miyached, they could be in seclusion, no one will know, and they won't do avera, as that is the halacha. Continues the Gemara with two other mekayres, Rish Lakish, Amar mehacha, from here, kefelech harimayin rakoisech, like a pomegranate are your temples. What does that mean? Afilu reikanim shebach malei mitzvahs kirima, and even the empty yidden have as many mitzvahs like a pomegranate. Rav Zera Amar mehacha v'yarech esreach begadav al tikri begadav ela baigdav. What does that mean? That pasuk says he smelled like the fragrance of his clothes, not his clothes, but those who are baiged of, those who do averais, which means there are mitzvahs even by all yidden. Continues the Gemara, Hani Baruni, Rav Zera. These Baruni, these difficult people, enabled Rav Zera Davim Mekarev Lahu. Though they were, Rav Zera befriended them, why? So they should come and do tshuva, Vavikabti Rabbanan. And the Rabbanan were upset at why Rav Zera was hanging out with these guys. The Rabbanan said, said the Chachamim, said the Barainim, until this day there was Rav Zera, the man with the singed ties that would daven for us, Hashtaman Bayalan Rachami, who's going to daven for us. And based off that, they thought, Oy what's going to be with us? And they went and they did tshuva. Continues the Gemara, going back to the Mishnah, the setup of the Sanhedrin, which next was the Shalosh Dayanim, the Shalosh Shuros, the 3 rows in front of the Dayanim. Amar Abaye Shmamina, What do we learn from over here? It says that naidi kulu naidi, that when one of them moves, they all move. As we said, it's not just that he fills the new slot. Everyone reshuffles to where he is more chash. It says, but why doesn't one complain until now? Is at the head, and now you're putting me at the end. I'm moving around. It's better to be zanav la'arayis. It's better to be on this line. You're right. You were downgraded, but it's better to be in row number 1, even though you're going to be at a lower level, than to be upgraded to a higher row. Continues in the Gemara. Now we're going to go into the actual case. Says the Mishnah case, how do they put fear? How do we make sure, as Rashi says, that the Eidim do not testify falsely? They would bring them in, and they would admonish them. They would say, they would say, maybe you will say your testimony based on umad, a guesstimation, conjecture, something that you heard, or maybe you heard from someone else, or even if it's from a trustworthy person. Shema, perhaps, maybe you don't know, by the way. We're going to cross-check, cross-examine the case. Have a Yaidim Shalkadini Mamonis Dini Fashas, they would tell the Eidim. Be aware that Dini Mamonis Dini Fashas are not the same. Dini Mamonis Adam Nasin Mamonim Mischaberla. You can just pay back. But Dini Fashas, be careful. Damai Vidam Zaroisev Tuliyim Bai. This person, his future generations, are hanging in you at Seif Oilam. Shkin Masiyan Bekayin Shargis Achiv, Kain killed his brother. Shenemar Demei Achicha Ta'akim. The blood of your brother is screaming out. Eini oimer dam achicha does not say the blood. Ela dimei, the blood's in plural. Achicha damai v'dam zareisav davar acher. Tmei achicha sheyadamai mushach al eitzim. Another pshat is that what the blood is splattered over the eitzim alavanim, over the trees and the stones. Lefikach. Therefore, we go back to talking to the eidim. Never adam yechidi. One is created alone. The lamed chater teaches kolam ma'abei nafesh. If you are involved in someone getting killed, if your whole world was destroyed. And because of Shalom Abrius, continues the Mishnah interjects, so that one should not say, my father's greater than your father, so that the minim don't say there's many rishuyas in heavens. Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching greatness of Hashem, that what? That one could sign a man as many coins from one mold. Kulam Dem Zelazah. Umelech Malchem Lochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tava kol adam b'chaysamay shel adam erishain. Each and every person is minted, is created, is molded in the mold of Adam Risha. And now one is similar to the next. No two fingerprints, no two pupils, no two snowflakes, or one like the other. Lefikach kol echad ve'echad chayav loymar b'yishvili nivra odam b'shema taimru. And perhaps you will say, as we turn over to so maybe the Eidim are going to say, they're going to get scared. And they say, what do I need this for? What am I getting involved? This sounds so difficult. This sounds so potentially to have issues. Why am I getting involved? If you're a witness and you don't testify, you have to. It's a law not to. And maybe you'll say, wait, you're going to be responsible for the other guy. No, if he's a Rasha, if someone committed a crime, then we rejoice with the downfall of the Rishayim. Says the Gemara, let's go back and let's elaborate a little bit on all the different ways that we scare the Eidim, the different ways of Ma'ayim the Eidim that the Mishnah began with. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Gemara, Keitzad Mu'umad, the Mishnah began and said, what? Be careful, don't testify based on conjecture. What is conjecture? Amalem Shema Kachri Item, Sheretz Acher, Sherat Achavir Lechorva, Uritzatim Achrav, they ran into a desolate building and ran after them, and Mutzatim Zayv Biyadai. And you found the sword in his hand with the blood dripping on it. and the body on the floor. If that's what you saw, you didn't see anything. Meaning, you didn't see the murder. You saw all the other details. So be careful. Don't testify that there was murder based on me'umad, conjecture. You have to actually see the ma'isa. Tani, we learned to the Brayso, B'Shimon ben Shatach, Arab ben Achama. And Lord, Isi Echad Shotach Haver L'Chorva Rasati Achrav Isi Sai V'Yadav V'Dam V'Tavtev V'Argu M'Far V'Amarti LeRasha Mi Argu L'Zeh Ayani Ayata. And I would say to him, Rasha, who killed this person? I or you, Avamasa, what should I do? She'in Damach Master Biyadi. What should I do? Your blood is not in my hands. Sharei Amra Taira says the Taira Pishnaim Edim Yumas Hameis. Hayoidea Machshava Isi Para Me'esa Eish Argis Chaveri. Hashem will pay back for one who killed his friend. Amru, Lozazu Misham. They did not move from there. Until a snake came and bit him, Vames, and then he died. But what do we see? We see that you can't give testimony unless you mamish see the act of murder. Says the Gemara, was he deserved to be bitten by a snake? What do you mean the Dal Mises were on Batal? But they were. Eladin Arba Mises Lai Batal. What does it mean the Din Arba Mises Lai Batal? Mishan is Chayv Skilo. This sounds familiar. We had this prior. So Nus Chayv Skilo. You never let go from the roof of Chaydar. So an animal will bite him. Mishan is Chayv Sereif. I never let go. Nachash Machisha. Mishan is Chayv Ariga. I name Salamachos. All listed by love. Robbers will capture him. Mishan is Chayv Chaniko. Do we have a Nahar? I maze bis Runaki. So ask the Gemara that what was the one that was Chayv the Nachash to bite him? That was the second case over here. That was Sreifa. But if someone commits murder, he's not Chayv Sreifa. So why did the snake bite him? Amri, they said, that guy did other Averais Havu Beit. Damar Mar. Mishat Chayv Shtei Misais. And it's true that maybe he wasn't Chayv Sreifa for the act of Hariga, but he was Chayv Sreifa for other Aveiros, and that's why the snake bit him. We continue with the next part of the Mishnah. Me'umad v'chulu b'din nefashos. Who do I am dinan? Hab'din imamanais am dinan. Says the Gemara. The diak in the Mishnah is by din nefashos. We can't create conjecture. B'din imamanais we could. Keman keravacha the Tanya Ravacha Omer. Gamal ochar beina gemalim. Names like gamal. A camel is meeting amongst the camels, and we see a camel that's dying dead next to him. We know this one killed it. Meaning, and even though it's conjecture, you didn't actually see the murder, but for monetary cases, it's enough to paskin such. Says how many months are you going to say the same thing that Aim be aid doesn't work by Din Vashais. By works with Dinim Amanes Vatanam, but we learned in the Mishnah. Im Amar, who Amar Ali Shani Chayav Loi Ish Blaini Amar Ali Shu Chayav Loi Lo Amar Klom. So says the Gemara, it's not true that Aid Mipi does not work when it comes even to Dinim Amanes. Till he admits it in front of Loi Mesayim Zos Alma Falgav the Basil of Dinim Amanes. Amar Lu Dinim Vashais. It says the Gemara, you're right. It's a different type of aid, mipi aid. Hachanami here also regarding the oimeid. It would work for dine nefashais, and that is the contrast between the two. And we continue have a yoidim, and this is the next part of the admonishment in the Mishnah that what we tell them about Cain killing Hevel. What did Cain do to Hevel? He made bruises, he made slashes before he actually killed him. Why? This was the first murder. He didn't know how to kill him. Until he reached his neck, and then he finally killed him. From the moment that the earth opened his mouth to receive the blood of Hevel, and never opened again, edge of the earth we heard songs, praises for the tzaddik, so what do we see? We see that the Piaretz doesn't open up again. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Chizkiya's brother asked, the obvious kasha. What about Kairach? Omar le l'ra pischa, but l'taiva le pischa. It only opened up l'ra, not l'taiva. Pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmaya.